who better than me?
Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, BaseDaKID. As always, please like and subscribe, send the notifications out to friends, colleagues, family members, you know, all that good stuff. I had a few days away. I was trying to let a couple of the old videos breathe, just get a bit more views on those, but stuff's happened, things to talk about. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so while this is actually like the main topic of the video, I spent a little extra time talking about Savannah and Clarissa in the last piece. So I'm gonna keep this one a bit snappier, put everything in one. We recently just got word that the Brent Council have allowed the Fury and Whyte card to have an extra 4,000 seat capacity. Now, I don't know where they plan to put those seats. I don't know if they were additional seats in the bleachers or if they're going to be additional seats more towards the ground and trying to find some area there. Maybe closing in some people a bit more. Now look, I still have my suspicions about the tickets and, you know, how many have really been sold and, you know, how many people are really going to show up on the day. But as it stands, all evidence points to me being incorrect about the previous take that I had, but I'll address that in a later video after the fight happens. You've got that, so you say to yourself, well, things must be going really well. Several weeks ago, or was it like 2 weeks ago, you had Frank Warren and Jeff Benz going back and forth on TalkSport about things that still aren't agreed within the contracts and negotiations. Frank Warren saying, well, there are no negotiations. You signed a contract and you're just bound by that contract. We're bound, you're bound, that's it, there's nothing else to talk about. But Jeffrey Benz said, well, no, that contract was signed in good faith that there would be further negotiations based on a few points that weren't in the contract. Now, look, ultimately, here's one thing that I will say. I know wholeheartedly that that contract and that whole situation was not negotiated in good faith. And I'm not even talking about the first offer that they made Dillian with the $5 million with like a 20% or 25% upside on pay-per-view or whatever. I'm not even talking about that. That was a shambles in itself. But because I can tell you, the same way that Devin Haney had literally no leverage in the Cambosa situation, having to go to Australia, Dillian Whyte had little to no leverage with the situation with Tyson Fury because of the WBC putting a time limit on him being able to agree any terms with with them. Essentially, he had this arbitration, which we still, as far as I was aware, it was supposed to have concluded last month. We still haven't heard anything about it now. But you had the arbitration, you're waiting for a specific outcome for that. The WBC then mandate you to get this level of purse off of a petition from Top Rank and Queensbury. Don't give you hardly any time to negotiate or negotiate a deal that makes sense commercially for what you claim is like one of the biggest events in British history. Although prior to that, he was just a mandatory, but now it's one of the biggest events in British history. Go figure. So anyway, you do all of that, you go through to the purse bids, you have that agreement, and at that point, you have no choice but to either sign the agreement, which you don't agree with, which you're not happy with the stuff that's been put in there, or you lose your shot. So then you strip it back from the original contract they apparently sent to him to this bout agreement type contract, which they say has obligations in it. But I looked at a copy of a bout agreement from the WBC. Now, unless the one I've looked at is incorrect or it's like an old version, I didn't see anything in there that said you have to do any promotions. It literally just said that you basically have to you essentially just have to turn up. You have to make yourself available to the weigh-in. You have to provide the WBC, I think, with a couple of some images for them to put on their website. I think no later than, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks before the fight. I don't know if this was literally just the one for the promoter, or this is the one that the fighters get as well, but it looked like a general agreement that everyone would have to sign. So I could be wrong, but they didn't look like there was much in there. However, based off of all of this stuff, Dillian's obviously signed this thing. The lawyer says, well, we said that there would be further negotiations. Frank Warren seems to say, well, no, there doesn't need to be any further. This is what's in the contract. You don't get anything else, blah, blah, blah. So Dillian says, well, I don't want to, participate in any of your promotion for this, because you're not paying me any extra. You screwed me on the purse bid anyway. It's you're the reason why they're trying to only give me 20%, because they would have gave me a better split if you didn't go to them trying to argue paychecks, even though you guys refused to fight in a pandemic when I fought in the pandemic twice for less money than I would have got, but for a lot more money than what you're claiming I earned. And that's just common knowledge. So yeah, I can see why he's still being a certain way. However, they say, oh well, he's not promoting the fight, he's not talking about the fight. But the joke is, him not talking about the fight has made more people interested in it. I've heard more people talking about the fact that Dillian hasn't said anything, and oh, I wonder is he going to say something closer to the date. And this is actually from people that aren't really big boxing people. Like, I've heard this from just regular people. Oh, like, yeah, that Dillian Whyte, why isn't he saying anything? Like, they're intrigued. So him not talking is actually indirectly promoting the fight anyway. So if you're going to try and sue him, supposedly, to say, well, he didn't promote, he didn't put anything on social media, it seems as if like he's got people talking. But my thing also is that you claim you have this 94,000 and whatever. So if this is the case, and some people have put it to him very lightly and politely in questioning, this is where we need someone like Rob Tebbert back, I'm afraid. But if this is the case, why are you so upset that he's not participating in promotions? You keep saying it's the Tyson Fury show. People only care about Tyson. It's his first fight back in what, 4 or 5 years in the UK. So people are desperate to see Tyson. But if they're desperate to see Tyson, why does it matter if Dillian talks or not? The only way, like, you can spin it whatever way you want to spin it, but it's clear that you've paid over the odds on the fight. Maybe the tickets are what you say they are. You know, at this point, like I said, I might have to eat some crow on that. But clearly, the money that you think that you're generating from this, from this fight, or you thought that you might be able to generate, it looks like you're about to take a bath on this, and not even a nice one with the bubbles and hot water, just a cold ice bath that you can't come out of. Then that's not even talking about the undercard that was just released. I mean, he said, oh, well, we couldn't get Anthony Yard on the fight. Yeah, I heard, because the commission wouldn't allow him to fight the cab driver that you wanted to put him in there with. Jared Anderson supposedly got himself injured. Now, to be fair, Jared Anderson against Christian Hammer was going to be a great fight in terms for his development. I would have been happy to see that on there, but I've noticed that Bob Arum hasn't sent any of his American stable or any of his top ranked guys over to this fight. So if you're in a co-promotional situation with Top Rank, why is my man not helping you out? Especially if they put some of the money behind this, because it wasn't just BT Sports money. So did they not, are they not invested in this? Do they not want to see a return on some of their investment as well? I would have thought you put a couple of the American guys on the undercard, but no. But then the undercard gets announced, what, 2.5 weeks before the show? And it's absolute garbage, like from top to bottom. I'm not even going to go into who's on the show. Apart from the very funny co-main event of Low Ball, I mean, that was funny. I know several people have made the connection, and yeah, if that was like a little cheap shot, that's probably like one of the best things I've seen Frank do in a long while. But yeah, it's like it's funny though, you talk about this being like the biggest event in British boxing history, in like a British heavyweight boxing history for, you know, for ages, and then you don't make it an event and a spectacle worthy of that kind of moniker. It's it doesn't really look great, you know, a couple of weeks out. Boy, but I just find it weird that it's the biggest event in boxing history, and like 2 months ago Dillian Whyte was just a mandatory. So how do you go from being just a mandatory to being a part of the biggest boxing event in British history? And how is it the case that Frank is so upset by Dillian not speaking and not promoting and not helping to promote the event and fulfill his contractual obligations or whatever, when Tyson Fury is the star of the show? None of that makes sense to me. It clearly means that someone's lying somewhere. There has to be a lie, and I'd have to assume the amount that Frank's getting worked up and upset by this, the lie's coming on his side. There's a misdirect in there somewhere. Outside of all of that, obviously, you then say, well, if we're gonna be fair, well, Tyson Fury is getting 80%, theoretically, right? Or at this point, what is it, 75-15 or something like that. Okay, so Tyson Fury is getting 80%. So why shouldn't he do 80% of the work? He's the star, right? People are coming to see him, so yes, he promotes and sells the fight. If Dillian Whyte only comes in on fight week and does the press conference, the media workout, the weigh-in, and then turns up to the fight and obviously does whatever media's at those events as well, whether it's BT, whether it's the Zone, Sky, or whatever, I mean, he's fulfilling his 20% of the deal, is he not? I don't know if that's how it works. Maybe someone in the comments can fill me in and let me know. But I'm just, to me, all of this just seems like, you know, that you messed up with the amount of bid that you put in. You put in 9 million more than the second highest bid. Like, could have put in 3 million and then had another 6 million to play with for the undercard to make it an event and a spectacle worthy of what you're claiming it to be. But I guess before I finish this, because I'm going to be doing a live watch along on Undefeated, with the Undefeated channel, Undefeated podcast. I will be one of the hosts of the live watch along for this event. It's going to be at the Old Tiger's Head in Lewisham, so Lee High Road. So if you are in and around South London, or even if you just want to travel, like, come down. I'm going to leave the link to tickets and stuff in the description below. And yeah, come down, check it with me and Tony, the PugalistBOY, and we will be hosting in place of Travis J and KG. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and Hardcore Casual out.